a bigger, meaner troll fighting. And like, though, I think the worst part is the guy claimed like he was mad because I was like, I am for these, I guess stereotypically left or liberal ideas. He was
Mm-hmm.
mad about that, but within his argument, he is like, "But I have this psychological thing, and you're being ableist by being mean to me." To the other troll, and it's like, "But you don't want people to be nice." Like that was what started this whole thing.
I
And
mean,
and you specifically went out of your way to attack someone with imposter syndrome and called his like all this stuff shit. Like you're both a hypocrite and like you've become terrible. You've become the thing you claim to hate, and also you were the thing you hate to begin. Like it's all this, and it just goes to show, Charles, that Facebook itself is this like festering cesspool. It's a
mhm.
it's a ecosystem that builds bacteria in the form of self-righteousness
Mhm.
and
And other
apathy.
pathogens.
Apathy. Yeah,
Yeah,
and other
that too. That
pathogens.
too.
Cyber syphilis is what I call it. Um, but I was thinking about, our topic today, dear listener, is monstrous ecosystems. And I thought of another monstrous ecosystem.
What's that?
Your body, buddy.
Oh yeah, dude. My fucking body is like so yeah, like we're building these exciting new ecosystems as we destroy the planet,
Right?
like
Yeah, yeah.
junkyards that meet the shore and like now catfish are eating pigeons and stuff that has never happened before. No, seriously, look up the
Ah.
video. It's fucking amazing. Gets him by the foot and just drags his ass underwater. So
Pelicans, by the way, are terrifying.
yes, yes. But yeah, sort of like stuff jostled together that doesn't belong. Some of it's dead, some of it's alive. That's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made that joke if you had not made that joke so many times
Yeah.
in the past. I feel like that joke is safe territory. Um,
Absolutely. I'm proud of
friends,
my undead cyborg status.
welcome to Wandering Monster, the Monster Manual of Podcast. I am John Baltusberger,
I am Charles R. Bernard.
and if I sound a little um less crisp than usual, is because my fucking dog, who is not within eyesight at the moment, ate my windscreen. Because I too live in a monstrous ecosystem.
Don't
Um,
we all these days?
yeah, we all do. Um, that intro about Facebook is absolutely true. By the way, I was targeted by an internet troll this week, and it's funny because his big point of attack was, well, no one's heard of you or your publishing company and your shit. And on that note, today we released the pre-order of Edward Lee's Check
Yeah.
Extreme,
Yeah.
publishing not only Edward Lee's new novella, possibly one of the forefathers, the granddaddy, the godfather of extreme horror, winner of the J.F. Gonzalez Award, um, man who like has traditional publishing deals.
The JF
um,
Gonzalez, by the way, is the Undeath Time Achievement Award. Um, which
get
yeah.
out. Get out.
Yeah.
It's an achievement for everything he's done specifically
Mhm.
within the extreme horror and splatterpunk community, which is a ton. I list him as one of my key inspirations. But like not only him, but like 7 authors from the Czech Republic who have never been translated in English before appearing in this anthology. Like we're kind of like an international company now.
Hmm.
And it's like, yes,
Well,
no one but me has heard of my company.
one thing I learned long ago, my friend, is there's absolutely no need to defend yourself to anybody on the internet for any reason. Like, it's a lose-lose situation. I've been through it so many
Mm,
times, and it's just like the only when it like the what was it, 1984 or later classic film War Games.
mm,
The only winning move is not to play. So I
yeah.
think you
No,
handled it
that's
right.
absolutely
You were
that.
very like civil and then just disengaged, and that was great. And
Yeah,
then one of your friends came in and ate him alive.
yeah. It's very easy for me. I used to have shitty friends. I've gotten rid of a giant majority of those. Um, and if you are one of those people I've gotten rid of, I hope you're having a good time and a great life. Thanks for tuning
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
But
for sure.
like, there'd be people that would like their idea of a fun time was like try to imply that I had a small penis or couldn't get laid, or
I
like again
mean,
like in this situation, this like, oh, no one's heard of your company. It's very easy to let these kind of insults roll off my back if I have like the like you can make fun of my dick all you want. Like between the two of us, I've seen it. So like
the way
I
I
know,
feel
I
about
know how
internet
true or untrue it
trolls,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The way I feel about trolls, beloved of the internet, is like, I don't know, whenever someone is like trying to troll me, I kind of feel a little bit like, Bane, like, I was born of this. Like, people like
I was trolling the something awful forums
yeah, exactly. When
when
you were
you were a
fucking
babe.
like a kindergartner. So the internet's actually like more polite than it was when I was on it. So
Right.
yeah, like anywho, but this is Wandering Monster, where we talk about things other than Facebook. Much as I consider it history's greatest. I actually have something that's weirdly related to that, because I have brought a very special treat for everybody that has a little bit of politics attached to it, but nothing like too excessive.
Okay.
And it's kind of like it's a very eclectic politics that I think you'll find
I will say
enjoyable.
for anyone who's wondering, the reason we didn't post our episode last week, from last week, I should say, is that Charles and I felt that we went on such a political tangent that it kind of became less of a show about monsters and more of a show about us just kind of ranting and getting shit off our chest. And we don't like, despite the fact that we were just talking about trolls and Facebook stuff, like that's not the purpose of the show. We want to have a
No,
good
no,
time. We want you to have a good time, and listening to two angry cis het white dudes talk
the
about
last fucking thing that
their
anybody needs.
emotions
Yeah,
may
yeah,
not
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
everyone's idea of a great time. So
You,
instead, this week we're actually
I
going to
have
talk about
brought
monsters.
yes, and I brought something that is like monsters up and down, my friend. So, here's an interesting question for you. Looking back on your childhood
Mm.
as a little Baltusburger, I'm sure that there were books that held like a special place in your heart and so forth. Can you remember where they all came from, or are there a couple like mystery contenders where you're like, I don't know where the fuck I picked that up?
So we have a bookstore chain here in Austin. It's grown to, I think, a national company at this point called Half Price Books.
Hmm.
But when I was growing up, it was just Austin, and their whole thing was they would get used books and like half the sticker price and sell them. I don't have to wonder where I got anything because
It's
it was
all
from Half
from
Price.
yeah,
But yeah, I was like,
yeah.
if this has words in it, it came from Half Price
Right,
Books.
right. That's awesome. Um, for
Yeah. So
me,
no
it
no
was
unknowns.
often like from a person. Like
Mm,
I would go surfing through bookstores and stuff like that. But a lot of books I got like were some of them I can clearly remember. Like I thought this looked interesting or whatever. But other
mhm.
ones are like not a genre I particularly read, or like not from an author that I know. One of those I'm still trying to figure out where the fuck I found it. It's called The Lives of Christopher Chant, and it's actually like a pretty incredible YA fantasy weird novel. And it's not the first one in the series, which that has in common with actually what I did bring, which
Chug,
I was
chug,
playing a bit
chug.
of a detective game with my mom, where I was
Mhm.
like, "So, do you remember this that book?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that one. I recognize that cover, etc." Because I pulled it up for her, and I was like, "Do you remember where the fuck I got it?" And like, both of us have no clue. And like, I had like friends and shit as a kid, so I'm sure it was one of them. And I'm like desperate to find out who recommended. I
That was a
actually
cruel
only read.
flex on me, Charles. That was a
Yeah,
mean flex.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for bringing that up.
This is when I was a kid, man. Unlike Little Baltusburger, no, Little Bernard and Little Baltusburger. That's going to be our hit, like cartoon that we
No, it's a
make
rap
one day.
group.
Oh, that would be fucking dope.
Because
Uh,
they're not good rap names. They're way too
no, they're
long and
not. No,
awkward. It's like
no, they're
little
not.
Charles R. Bernard and little Balthusberger. Why did they
I
call
was
themselves that? They are very dumb.
I was actually
Very
thinking
dumb.
the other day that like old tech, because I was talking about old tech, blah 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 blah. It's all old tech, and I was like, that'd make a pretty good rap name. But anyway, no, I bring to you the War on the Chittor series, which currently is a quadrilogy, although the author has threatened to crank out a fifth and sixth book.
Uh-huh.
It's so I read this as a kid. I read only the fourth book, which is called A Season for Slaughter. They've all got dumb names. The first one actually is called A Matter for Men. And okay, so I'm just gonna tee off on this. First of all, I would not have put myself through reading like another two, three of these like old ass sci-fi books if there wasn't something interesting or worthwhile about them.
Right.
And in this case, it is the ecosystem angle that this guy brings to alien invasion. Now, this is not like a new theme unique to him because just think about well, Color Out of Space, which now is like a very decent Nicolas Cage movie. That's goes back to
Mm.
Lovecraft did a lot of shit about like invading ecosystems, and
Yeah.
obligatory Lovecraft was kind of a dick, but yeah.
When we published the Creeping Corruption anthology, it was very
Hmm.
specifically like the idea of like not right fungal infection from another plane, something that crept
Love
from
it.
like an eldritch
Yeah.
realm. Like that was I wanted to read something that featured that, and I
Yeah.
couldn't find a novel. And I wasn't writing like novels at that time. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do an anthology and tell people to write it, and they will. And they did,
Yeah.
sort of.
So you
They
like
sort of got
commissioned
that.
it. That's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
bespoke
That's
anthology just for
people
you.
keep asking why I do themed anthologies. It's because I'm very cheaply commissioning
That's
novels on
right.
themes I want to read.
No better way to get exactly what you want to read. In this case, so like in the fourth book that I jumped into, it was a little confusing because it's a very complicated ecosystem, and by book four,
Hmm.
it's like running shit on planet Earth. But starting at book one then was very interesting because like it doesn't start out with that interesting ecology angle, like really. You kind of jump into the action and it's like, okay, first of all, this thing was published in 1983, and like
Okay.
the first book, and reading it I was like, this has to have been 67, 68, 69, somewhere in there, like because it just like every page just like screamed Vietnam at the top of its lungs. And like this guy's in an army unit, and it's after like a plague has killed like a hell of a lot of humans, actually not one plague but several. And of course it turns out that was like the first wave of this like ecological invasion to like wipe out a bunch of earth fauna so that they can come and replace it with their fauna. And the humans that are left kind of form this like military response. And my first hint that I was like, this is a Vietnam thing, isn't it, was that like the primary weapon against these things, which I'll get to in what they are in a second, but are flamethrowers. And like,
Mm.
I mean, many games feature a flamethrower. Like, flamethrower is a pretty fucking impractical weapon in real life, I would think. And like, the only reason it's even like something that springs to mind at all is because of Vietnam. Like the use of flamethrowers in that war by the United States was monstrous and
Hmm.
extremely, and like anyway. So then you get into the whole like military fighting aliens thing early on, and like the aliens are these big ass, like you probably have the picture on the screen already. They're like, they
Hmm.
look a little bit like caterpillars with pinchy claws, and very frightening mouths, and they're a legitimately terrifying monster. These things are gastropods, so they're like somewhere between like a caterpillar and like a slug, and they're covered in fur that it turns out by book two is actually like a full body
Cilia.
fungal infection
Oh,
that
nice.
that also that also is a second set of nerve endings. So
Ugh.
like it's fungus that feels, and like it's all up and down their body. And if you get too close to it as a human and it doesn't devour you alive, which it probably will do,
Mhm.
just like touching it, it's like an empathetic bonding experience, and it can basically like brainwash you. It can do the
Nice.
same thing with this like song it produces. So like the worms are really fucking cool, and they're like a like baby one is about the size of a dog, and a full grown one is like the size of a bus. So like they're fucking huge, and they are like voracious and fast, and they eat people alive, and they have all these teeth that are like inward curving scythes. There's this whole horrible passage where they explain that like it evolved that way because once it starts eating, it can't stop. Like something will get like ripped to fucking shreds if it like tries to climb out of its mouth. So it's like a
Mhm.
one-way ticket down Tooth Town. And
Yikes.
yeah. So this would have just been like any old sci-fi throwaway novel to me, except there's a very intriguing angle. Like I said, I starting out chapter one, chapter two, I thought like, okay, this is like something written in the 60s and it's like very old school. And even for 83, like there's a chapter where your like protagonist slash narrator, one James what's his nuts, McCarthy, um he like and he's like your classic dumb like army grunt who's like, gosh, it's a big old world out there, and kind of learns as he like,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
by chapter three, like he and this dude are blowing each other, and it was very surprising. And I was like, that's cool. And so I did a little research, and like, yeah, this author, David Gerald, last name spelled Gerrald, is like kind of famous for more than just his like dumb worm monsters army man book. He is a OG Star Trek writer from like the original series
Oh, shit.
and the cartoon and the Next Generation, and
Okay.
he wrote a StarCraft novel, and he like he's like a big deal, and
Okay.
he's most famous for writing the Star Trek episode "The Trouble with Tribbles,"
Yeah.
and then on top of that. Do you remember the story in like the 2000s? I think Gizmodo broke it about the lost gay Star Trek episode.
No, I no.
So like they shot this episode that of original Trek that featured like problems of like gender and sexuality from we're framing this as aliens point of view, and there was like a very normalized homosexual relationship in the episode, and like everybody on the show was like, fuck it, that's cool. And whoever the network was that ran it, I'm ashamed I don't know, like NBC, whoever, was like, nope, and yanked it, like fully done episode, shot and everything. And it like emerged from like the fucking mirror universe or wherever it had been. Yes, got that one in. And is now available. You can like watch it. And David Gerald wrote that one too. So he's like a queer pioneer in sci-fi, and that's dope.
Cool. That is
Uh,
very cool.
yeah, the interesting twist is this. He is obviously like a huge Robert Heinlein fan. Like I knew that from like the first chapter. I was like, okay, a Heinlein guy, that's we'll see where this goes. And like it's weird because I don't think he accepts Heinlein's like economic views, because there's a character in the series who is like very clearly based on Milton Friedman, and he's
Mhm.
kind of like treated as like a piece of shit. uh in fact, this guy, like this narrator protagonist, is like pretty loathsome. Like he hates everybody, he sees the worst in everything. One thing I will say is that there is a whole thing with misogyny in the gay communities, particularly gay men around that time. And like the misogyny in this book is like bracing.
Mm.
I mean, it is like every woman character is a monster or an ice queen or a lost little girl, or I mean, like it is relentless. And there's some use of like circa 1983 language where I'm just like, Jesus Christ. So it's not like all good, but back to the ecology that he brings to us, all the way from the planet Chator, which orbits a red sun, so everything there is like all fucking red sunny, and it's like a really complicated ecosystem is one of the things I like about it. It invades in stages, but like once it gets here, like it is a much more competitive ecosystem than ours. So
Mm.
like Earth is just one big like tasty plate of like shredded meat for it to enjoy, and like fucking everything in this ecosystem will kill you, which I very much enjoy. Like even these things that are like big puffy cotton candy puffballs that are non-toxic on their own, they break apart into these like spore-like clouds that are just like unbelievably fucking flammable, like a the inside of like a flour silo. If there's suspended dust in the air, it becomes like very combustible, and like the tiniest spark or whatever will set off one of these fields of fungal dust, and like there goes like an entire fucking major metro area in a firestorm. So it's pretty cool, and I would actually not recommend that you read it. Maybe book 4, because it has like all the cool ecosystem stuff without having to work your way there. But it was nice to read this and be like, oh, this guy's obviously a dick. He's a misogynist. And then I look him up and I'm like, actually, kind of a mixed bag. So, in a way, this guy's internal ecosystem of like ethical values was at war with itself. And I like to think that the good one out in the end. He's written a shitload of books other than this one. And I'm sure that his, politics improved. I have no reason to think that he's a bad dude. He's on like the board at the Sci-Fi Museum, and I want to say it's in San Francisco. And yeah, and his books feature Colorado quite a bit, which I like because I was born there. So
Well, okay.
yep,
So I have a lot to say.
please.
Charles, while I'm talking, why don't you dash over to our Discord real quick? Look at the picture I just sent you, and then be super pissed off we can't talk about it until we're done.
Okay.
So, if you look at the monstrous ecosystems
Uh
list I have here underneath Charles, you'll see two jokes and two real things.
huh.
Now, the reason why Zebes is on there first, or Zebbies is on there first, is because when we were talking about what to do, Charles suggested invaders, but I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
just did mind flayers and outsiders, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
like bring them again real quick. Um, so I was like, what do I say? And he suggested, well, how about Metroid? And I was like, well, generally
Technically,
speaking,
yeah.
Samus is the invader in
See,
those
this is the
games.
thing I do, man. When I'm especially when I'm reading Horus Heresy and they're like on some Xenos planet and they're like Xenos scum, and I'm like, they live there, dude.
You're
Like,
in their house.
yeah. So like the
It's like you
Metroid. I
broke
mean,
into their house and said,
yeah.
why are you taking my stuff? This
My
is
favorite
my
is when
toaster.
somebody. My favorite is when somebody calls like a jungle or something spider infested, and
That's
I'm
their
like,
house.
that they live there. Yeah. So
If the
Samus Aran,
shark
stop it.
infested water, you mean their house? Their
Yeah,
home?
exactly. When they start showing up on the street, like in that bad CGI Sharks movie, that's when you got to worry.
The Xenos have my mug. No, no, this is my live, laugh, love mug. That was supposed to be a Tyrannid, by the way.
Oh, I loved it.
Okay, so, um, whilst we were talking about Metroid, something I love, um, Charles said, well, he's that way. Charles said, why don't we do monstrous ecosystems? Which definitely works. Works for any Metroidvania. If you need to know more about Metroidvanias, you can listen to past episodes, or you can check out this month's issue of Stranger with Friction, which I believe is actually in print now and will be on Amazon soon. It's a quarterly magazine featuring counterculture, punk rock, and horror. I used to supply stories to them, but have recently transitioned to writing articles for them. And this first article is about Metroidvanias, a specific genre of game that's near and dear to my heart.
A very good
Um,
genre. Yeah.
in those games, the world itself, the setting itself is a character, is an antagonist, is
Hmm.
really the end boss.
Hmm.
Um, is both a puzzle, it is a maze, it is a uh a there's a word. Word, word,
An
word. Word, word,
antagonist?
word, word, word. No, a hazard that you must overcome.
Ah,
So it works really well. But as always, what I really want to focus on is tabletop RPGs, right?
of course.
And I have three of them here. The first one, um, the first one is most fitting for the Monstrous ecosystem. This is Unleashed.
Mm.
Oh, stupid eye. There we go. If you're not watching this, there's a giant alligator man attacking some dudes. I believe with an axe, and that's pretty amazing. Um, Everyone's running and screaming. There's also a fish man strangling someone, and that's pretty great.
You know my
Um,
weakness for fishmen.
Fishmen are great. I love
Yeah,
fishmen.
they are. They're absolutely wonderful.
However, fishmen serve the gators in the Blindwater congregation, which is a
Oh,
great
bummer.
name for a group, by the
It
way.
is. Yeah.
I've talked about the Blindwater congregation before. I will again. Um, Iron Kingdoms. We mentioned the other day when we were kind of talking about systems that were it's just like, well, fuck, humanity never would have survived a minute here because
Yeah.
everything is awful.
It's the
Um,
grim darkness of extinction for, humans.
but every RPG is kind of that way. Um, every RPG has to set itself up to be like humans are on the brink of extinction at any moment so that you can struggle against the environment. The exception to those are like political games in which like humans are the greatest monster. I don't
I
play
must.
those because I don't like playing realism.
Yeah, yeah. I must intrude real quick. That is changing. The fact that there's one in particular I'm thinking of. I'm blanking on the name, but it's like you play witches who use their power for healing, and so like the whole point of the game is like you get injured people and you fix them, and like that's the role playing game. Like that's your. And I thought that was really cool in that it was non-violent, cooperative, etc. But I'm a flaming communist, so you know me.
I was working with Jillian, not Jillian, Devorah Weingarten. May her memory be for a blessing.
Mhm.
I was working with her to kind of plan a um defensive Jewish mysticism game in
That'd
which
be cool.
all the abilities were defensive and protective and
I
healing.
love that. Yeah, yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, she passed away before we even got like a foot in the door of like what we wanted to do. So it is what it is.
Yep.
Again, may your memory be for a blessing, Devora. Without her, I probably wouldn't have started publishing. So we all, if you enjoy our books, you owe her a debt of love. Um, so Iron Kingdoms, though, man, everything is shit. Everything
Okay.
is terrifying,
I
but
love it.
most of it is set in this like Cold War uh, kind of setting where like you have the English inspired country and the Russian inspired country, and they're industrialized and they're banging heads, and you have the like Crusades slash Jihad inspired
Mhm.
nation that broke off from this that shares religion with the Russian inspired country, but they're still like angry at each other. And then you have the undead, um, because they ran out of countries to mock or
My
not
people.
mock, ran out of countries
Satirize.
to rip off. I was going to say.
Yeah, okay. That
Um,
works too.
so, but it's all very industrialized. It's about giant machines punching each other.
I'm in.
Eventually, yeah, it's great. Eventually, they came out with Iron Kingdoms Unleashed, in which they're like, well, hey, well, what if these other races were playable, like the Scottish-inspired Trollkin,
Love it.
or the man, the Japanese-inspired very like okay, they're Japanese, but they're also Dark Eldar.
Yeah, I gotta
Uh
jump in here just real quick to say,
Scorn.
a like boy, you and I need to have a talk about Graham McNeil because he's really been pissing me off lately.
Fuck Graham McNeil.
Yeah,
We don't need to have a
and
conversation. We just know each other. Fuck Graham McNeil.
yep, and B, like I love my sweet Tony Keebs, my Tony Keebles, who's like voice acted a shit ton of
You've heard his voice more than you've heard your mother's voice at this point.
probably, yeah, and like I just wish that voice actors wouldn't do accent work. Like I just it's unnecessary, and like especially when they're doing Asian people, it's just like
Oh, the
mother of
white
God,
like
dude.
all of the white scars.
Yeah, yes,
Oh, can you
painful.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
if you want to know what we're talking about without buying one of these audiobooks, just picture John Wayne playing Genghis Khan.
yeah,
It's rough.
yeah, yeah, real rough. And other than that, my sweet Keeves does such a good job
Mm,
that I feel like I should write him a letter, like longhand, and be like, "Dear Tony Keebles,
don't
please
do
stop.
that.
Love, Charles."
You don't do it. Don't. No amount of your writing longhand will ever amount to anything next to the check that Games Workshop cuts him every time he opens his fucking
Fair
beautiful
point.
mouth.
Fair point. Fair
Anyway,
point.
so Unleashed featured these creatures, these animals, not monstrous races, let's call them.
Mm-hmm.
Trolls, the
Mm-hmm.
gator men,
Mm-hmm.
the bog trogs, I think, which are the fish dudes, all of the non-human races, and they're
Bog trogs. That's
cool.
so fun to say.
It is. Uh, one of the units you can get in the like mini war game is a Gatorman Boker and his troop of zombie bog trogs.
That's so dope.
It is. I
Man,
have one of those sets somewhere around here. I need to paint those motherfuckers.
I wish I were joking about this, but I'm contemplating getting a tattoo of an alligator playing a banjo.
We're just gonna move along. Um. Anyway, but if you look at this is not this is a thick and hearty book.
That is
Um.
that's a big one.
I pre-ordered this book, and it is 500 pages long. Uh,
God damn.
a lot of its abilities, a lot of its races, a lot of it's just flavor about like the wilds of Immorin and
Mm.
all the shit that will kill you. The next one we've talked about on the show before. We interviewed these dudes. Shattered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Shattered is
Love
the
that one. Yeah.
post-apocalyptic like old west
Yeah.
flavored.
Like hell is bursting forth. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
it's
bonkers.
really
I love
cool.
it.
It's another one where like just the environment as a whole
Mm-hmm.
is kind of trying to kill you, and like this is one where the seasons of the year are tracked by the movement of a giant undead horde,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is
That was my favorite
that's so
detail. Yeah.
metal.
Yeah. It's like
That's so good.
herd's headed north. It's time to bring in the meat or whatever. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
great.
The final one again, we've talked about this one too. Black Void, another
Mm-hmm.
hardy book. This has some expansion packs out at this, not expansion supplements out at this point. What I like about Black Void is it's this multiplanar game featuring this just really fascinating takes on kind of like mystic entities turned into just races.
Mm-hmm.
Like humanity glimpsed these things through their like fever dreams inspired by eating the wrong kind of mushrooms, but they're not
Mm-hmm.
actually gods and spirits. They're entities from other planes. But
Boy,
like
I have
the
a friend who believes that in real life. Real life, dude.
I'm
Uh,
sure lots of people believe that in real
yeah,
life.
dude. Like, not to met our PR guy Joe Rogan always is talking about like the machine elves and shit whenever he trips. Like, yeah, it's ultra terrestrials is the term. Just
Oh no,
in case,
man!
yeah,
Can't you
yeah,
put
I
in
know.
something cool? Fuck.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll we'll talk off the show
No,
about
we
it, but
won't.
it's
I'm gonna hang up on you. Um, man. Okay. One thing that I really like about Black Void is that it like a huge chunk of the game, like almost all of it takes place in a city, one city, like
Hmm.
one giant, massive city, multiplanar city, a city, but like you get the feeling that the whole thing is a bazaar.
Mm.
And I love bazaars as a
Mhm.
setting,
Me too. Yeah.
because even in reality, even in, like, where we live now, if you go to a bazaar, it has a completely different feel, it has its own ecosystem.
Yeah.
Uh, you could if it weren't illegal to, lay about, you could comfortably live in a bazaar without
Mhm.
ever leaving,
Yeah.
um, and it's a cool thing, um But yeah, I'm always the most fascinated with ecosystems. It's my favorite part of world building. It's my favorite part of reading role playing, like rule books, is just like seeing how they build out the natural world or unnatural world if it's like crazy cybernetics.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm a member of the Humble Bundle like monthly club, in which I get like a bunch of games delivered every month, and a lot of them I'll have or I'm not going to be interested in. Uh, but one game I was called House Flipper. I believe it was made by HGTV.
Oh, good God! Don't get me started, man.
So the reason I like this game, I like games like this and like Car Mechanic Simulator, and there's one I really love
That
called
one sounds dope.
Shipbreaker.
Okay.
Shipbreaker is incredible. It is a zero G, like spaceship, um, reclamation. The
Hmm.
game where you like take apart spaceships and
I like it.
salvage
Yeah.
the stuff that's like the materials that make it, but also like the equipment inside, and you can kind of peek in and see people's lives before they abandon ship or whatever. It's super cool and super zen. I love it to death. But I like zen games where you just like there's no real danger, there's no timer, you can just do whatever. Now the way
Yep.
you're
Yeah.
supposed to play House Flipper is you're supposed to buy houses and then repair them and then make them look nice and like pay attention to who's interested in the house and see what kind of house they want to put in the shit they want so
I
that you
hate
can get
everything
a
about
fit.
it.
Or one of the things that my version came with was the cyberpunk expansion, and the and the survival post-apocalyptic expansion. And so what I do is I go in and buy a cheap house, and make an open concept and then replace everything with cyberpunk bits. I
I
don't
mean,
always
that
make
does
money
sound
on
better. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't always make money on the houses I sell, but I always feel better about them. The one I was making before tonight's show had steel grate flooring in every room, including the bathroom and the bedroom, blood red walls, black tile kitchen, and a single basin of water in the middle of the bathroom.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
that's all
That's
you
perfect for
need.
the sacrifice. Yeah.
I do need to include a screaming light bulb though.
So is there like one of these house flipping games that's just called Gentrify?
um you know what? I hadn't noticed. Um but I believe all the faces of the like people bidding are defo white.
So like I'm heartbroken about this. I just got to let you know. I'll buy it retail when it's available, but I missed the Kickstarter by like 3 hours or something. But Jacobin, which is like the best socialist magazine out there in my opinion, they are kickstarted a game that's like it's like the opposite of Monopoly, and it's called
Okay.
Class War. And like everything in the game is designed to fuck you over. So like all the chance cards are like, you get pneumonia, but you've used up all your 6 days. You're fired. No more insurance. Like stuff like that. And I love it. Like I want it. I will play it, but I'm gonna have to pay the retail price when it's available because I couldn't get in on the what's the opposite of the ground floor? Like right before they cap off the top floor. I missed out, and I was just like hurtled into space, fell whole way back down.
There was a magical point, Charles, where I had no Kickstarters.
You're
Um,
shitting me.
yeah, because I check Kickstarter every day. Like
Yeah.
I look to see what's coming out. I
Yep.
just opened it up so I can. God, it's so bright.
It's
Yeah,
just
like
bordering on compulsive behavior at this point.
no, I can, Charles. I can stop at any time. I just don't want
That's
to.
right. Anytime you want. Yeah.
Anytime I want to. So, well, part of what I do is occasionally, I will go through the projects, see what is behind, check the updates, and if there haven't been updates, I'll message the creator and be like, "Hey, at the very least, you should tell us what's going on."
Mhm.
And I did that. Like, I still haven't gotten my Texas horror anthology comic,
No.
which
Oh
I
yeah.
which I'm published in, like which I helped organize and wrote for. Um,
I might have backed that one. I don't remember. Oh, I finally got my what are they called? Those comic books I backed by our friend what's his nuts?
um, the darkness one with like Dusk versus cheerleaders or whatever.
No, these were the Kitty something, Kitty Danger or whatever it is, or I don't know. Anyway, but they did come and they look great and they're signed and it was a long wait, but it was worth it. And I'm always happy to support indie comics in
Yeah,
particular. So
I am going to have a conversation with him, because what for Texas horror, what they did is they got the books and they're like, we're going to do a release party. And they did one in October to celebrate the book coming out and gave it to people who wanted to buy it there. And backers haven't gotten it. And that's not good.
no,
Another
you
thing I
always
see
yeah.
another thing I see real often, if you are running back Kickstarters or have a Kickstarter model business, take notes, please. The other thing that's real shitty is if you launch another Backstarter before your rewards for the last Kickstarter have gone out. It just makes you look shitty.
Yeah.
It makes people angry.
Two
So
things.
yeah,
First of all, I was dragged kicking and screaming into Kickstarter because I
by
used to
who?
call it I used to call it Grift Starter, and I was like, yeah, sure, that'll work. I thought it was just basically going to be like Fraud Central, and there's a little bit of that, but not
Yeah,
as much as I thought there would be. So I came late to the party, but the other one is like, do you remember that he was like a right-wing attorney who wanted to raise money to like start a pack or something like that,
yeah,
and instead he just took all the money and moved to Florida and was like, fuck you,
yeah.
and just like openly was like, read the fine print, suckers. Like, it says that I can do whatever I want with it, and like I am close to power here in Florida, blah 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 blah. And like uh I almost admire that guy just for you know uh sort of calling the suckers. Maybe some people learn something. I don't know. Political grifts in particular, like, yeah, they are chock a block on not really so much on Kickstarter, but on other crowdfunding sites.
Not Indiegogo, but like GoFundMe, which
Yeah, that one in
I used to
particular.
pay for my daughter's surgery.
Hmm.
Thank you everyone who helped. I have
It can be
backed
used for absolutely legit stuff. I should say that. Yeah,
I have backed 135 projects at this point.
that's a lot, man.
It's a lot. So what I was going to say is, I was completely devoid of any Kickstarter projects from like December 2nd to like December 7th. 5
Bliss. That's
days
5
without
days,
any
man.
projects packed.
Then you just fell right off the wagon. It
Just
was.
well, okay, but it was a two-volume Zine for Morkborg inspired by slasher movies. I'm not
Did you
going to
call your
get that.
sponsor first?
Huh?
Did you call your sponsor first to say like I'm having a weak moment and
Well,
I'm
okay,
about to back some like indie TTRPG and
here's the problem, Charles. My wife is my sponsor,
yeah, okay.
and my wife is the worst fucking person. We were at an event last weekend, to make money, to sell books and make money, Charles, which I would use to eat and
I've
stay
heard of
living
both those things,
indoors.
yeah, and that
Uh,
too.
and I walk up to a table, and there's a massive hand painting of Godzilla versus Destroya.
That's pretty dope.
And I show my
That's
wife, and
that's
I'm
pretty
like,
cool.
"Man, this is hard, man." And then he puts out a bunch of little pictures of Godzilla, and I was like, I need to get one." And my wife was like, yeah, go ahead and get, yeah." And I was like, "Okay,
Terrible
I'll get one
sponsor.
of the small ones." She's like,
Terrible
"No,
sponsor.
no, get the big one." I was like, "Okay, I'll get the big one and get one of the small ones too." Like, no, mom, wife, whom I love and cherish and respect, you need to stop the
Yes.
madness.
Somebody stop me. I've had that exact same conversation.
Do you not
Um,
understand that I don't have the willpower to say no to both Godzilla and you? One
for
of
the
you needs to tell
longest
me no, and
time.
Godzilla's not real.
Yeah, exactly, and if he's gonna say anything to you, it's gonna be,
It's gonna be
buy them
Screamon.
all. Yes, Skronk.
Skronk.
Um, yeah, like, it used to be that I saved all my, like, fun money for one particular time of year because Salt Lake Comic Con was, like,
Mm.
every year, and that's when, like, all the vendors come to me,
Right.
and, I would buy, like, day passes just to get on the vendor floor and, like, because 'cause I'd go bin crawling and find, like, shitloads of really excellent comics at, like, reasonable prices, but yeah, since cons are kind of a thing of my past, I've been drawn more and more towards the online marketplaces, and that's where you get into deep shit because
It is. Because you
with the
don't see the money leaving. You don't feel
yeah,
it until it's too late,
yep,
for sure.
yep.
100%.
Comic Con was all
And
cash. I had like a certain amount of cash in my wallet, and like
it also doesn't, like, you feel like you get excited when you buy something online, but it does not scratch that instant gratification that you kinda need to put a cap on spending, I found. Like, I
mhm.
need to like, I have it in my hand, I don't need more stuff,
Yep.
versus, well, yeah, sure, I just bought 20 books, but I don't have any of them yet, I can buy 20 more. On that note, you should also buy 20 books, y'all.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
I know
We'll
just the
sell them to you
place.
cheap. Yeah,
You should go to madnessheart.press and just buy all the books,
do
though.
it. Do it.
If like, we have books I've written, we have books that Charles has written,
Mhm.
we have books that many other people, including Christine Morgan and Edward Lee and Lucas Mangum and Susan Snyder, have written. If you just want books from me, you can go to www.kaijupoet.com. Get all of my books there. I'll send you signed books. I don't give a fuck. And you can follow me on Twitter at kaijupoet.com. Wait,
And
nope,
if you
just at Kaiju Poet. Sorry.
yeah. And if you are looking for anything Charles R. Bernard related, probably the best place to go to until I resuscitate my website. It's there, but I'm leave it alone for now. Just go to tinyurl.com / Charles R. Bernard. Last name spelled Bernard, and you will find the whole list. It's got my book, A Baptism for the Dead, available through Madness Heart Press. It's got various anthologies I've been featured in. It's got some magazines I've been in. It's got my essay on Satanism that's in a collection of stuff about 21st century Satanism. So yeah, all your Charles Bernard needs. Or you can find me on Twitter at CR or you can find this here humble pod at WanMoncast at WANMONCAST. Yeah, I think that's all my stuffs.
Awesome. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this consensual journey we call Wandering Monster. I have been John Baldisberger,
I've been Charles R. Bernard.
and we will be back next week. But until then, stay safe, but stay scared.